going to bring you Antonio, actually, and Miguel, the other Miguel. You should get credit, I don't know who's asking. We're both able to recover most of the video. So you won't see Mary Lambert, but she's someone you can just Google and get her right there. But we do have the video, and I guess we're kind of wondering if the group wants us to start with the video and then maybe reflect on the video. And the video actually is a video of an individual who we might treat. And he looks very similar to someone who we have seen many, many, many times. Broma. And very quickly, Antonio was able to recover the video. I think you understood that from my our sign language, right? And we're wondering if you want to see it. You want to see the video? Does that seem about right? Sí. Oh, finalmente. Okay. Antonio, if you want to set up a video for us in a sense by letting people know a little bit of the background of what we're walking into. One of the things that you might not have heard earlier is that we're going to see a video and it is a little hard to watch. It's a little hard for me each time to watch it. And one thing to keep in mind is that these are the people that I work with. I don't know what the people that you work with look like, but this is what they look like sometimes before they get to us.
Hola, esta escena es de una persona que ha salido del hospital y llega a casa con sus papás y el problema fue que está buscando el video de su boda y no puede encontrarlo, entonces ya el problema es más grave para él porque está buscando su video, así es de que vamos a ver donde no poder encontrar este video va a afectar a toda la familia. Y esto es lo que es un parte de lo que de los clientes, de las personas que vemos con que trabajamos. A veces es muy difícil de estar con ellos.
Also,
su respiración.
Cada vez que veo ese video, las emociones se me vienen, porque eso es lo que vemos cuando estamos trabajando con familias. Y les voy a decir que esta familia es unida, se encuentran en el mismo lugar y están tratando de apoyar a su hijo que está pasando por algo muy difícil, y de la manera en que trabajamos se presta a poder discutir algo similar a esto con los papás, con las personas, y tratar de una manera de que todos puedan tener voz en lo que acaba de pasar y por qué es que están lidiando con todo esto, de qué manera poder apoyar uno al otro con otras metas que puedan surgir de las reuniones que tenemos.
I've shown this video a few times. Every time I see this video, it reminds me what goes on behind closed doors in families all over the world. Illness, mostly mental illness, and that I've been exposed to, that I've been working on. And the hope is that in our work, we see a family before it escalates to this situation. This is really bad. He starts to hallucinate and see the man cheating on his wife as his mother and starts strangling his mother. Father comes in and doesn't understand. Why are you strangling your mother? They all start screaming. The police get called. The police, I don't know if you caught this, but the police know this family very well. They know exactly what happens, and they know exactly which hospital to take him. Too many times when the police get called, they know the person very, very well. And so the police get called, and you can imagine what happens with the rest of the story. And our hope is, how can we prevent this scenario, right? Keeping everybody safe, keeping everybody heard, and cared for before it gets to a situation like this, which is what we call a crisis. a complete crisis. And so we're going to show you a little bit about what treatment should look like for this man. So I guess I'm kind of wondering, Antonio, what do you think? Should we show them the kind of treatment he got in Silver Lining Playbook? This is Brad Cooper acting as Pat. Or should we show them a little bit of treatment as we would do it, and then go back to see what he got? I guess I'm kind of wondering what people want.
No, de la misma manera estoy pensando que quizás podemos hacer un poco del trabajo que hacemos y para que vean de qué manera trabajamos.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then maybe we'll take a break and show you this gentleman, Pat, who's actually Brad Cooper, with his therapist in this film, and what his therapist does. And you can tell me which work you like better. Continue. Thank you for the technical support. Okay. All right, so what does treatment look like in a gynecological team in New York, other places around the world, Finland, Sweden? So we have something that's called a network meeting. So you might be wondering, what is a network meeting? So a network meeting is what they used to call a family therapy meeting, right? It was just the families getting together and talking about the problem. But what happened was that in Finland, they decided that they're really close family. I imagine, I don't know what culture is like here, but one thing we know about the folks in Finland is they have a really, really strong family connection. It's super important. Actually, almost reminds me of the Latino culture in that way, and then how close it is and how one person cares for another. And they thought, well, not everybody has a biological family. Why don't we find out who else can be helpful to participate in a group meeting, a therapy meeting? A teacher, somebody who's the grocer down the store, the ice cream man, anyone that person felt a connection to. Let's try and bring them together. So, for example, the gentleman we saw, like Pat, in the video before, the idea would be like, so who can he connect with, right? Because he can't connect with his ex-wife. Maybe he can. Maybe she's the one who should really be there. Who are the people that would be really possible for him to connect with, and for anyone to connect with? So there's this meeting, and the meeting happens traditionally, in the most traditional sense, anywhere from like 25 times a year to 6 times a year. You can meet once every 2 months, and that might actually be enough. And the reason why, you might be wondering, what is with this meeting? Why would it happen so infrequent, this sort of network meeting? Because this meeting is all the important people in your life getting together. And apart from, well, you don't have Thanksgiving here, so apart from Christmas and other holidays, when do the important people in your life actually come together? Well, they come together when you have a crisis, right? And we just saw a crisis. So you bet that after what we saw before happens in any household, even on a lesser level, right? The family is going to want to get together, friends are going to want to get together, loved ones are going to want to get together to support that individual. And that's what they realize, crisis, right? People are doing, well, sorry, we'll see you next Christmas. But when there's a crisis like this, people are willing to get together and listen. Actually listen, not scream at each other. They might do that too, but listen to each other. So that's the first thing that we do, is we gather the individuals. And figuring out how to get those individuals is work in and of itself. So there's something called a network map, and we try to figure out who can we get and gather to come and be a part of that. So we meet with the individual in their home, as we told you, right? Because that means that if you're in crisis, you're not about to leave your house. You might not, but that doesn't matter. We'll still be there for you. And we show up as a therapist or psychiatrist, peer specialist. We show up, they're ready to work with you. And the idea is to come back to the individual however many times they need. However many times they need. So, if you need me to come back tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow. If you want me to come back in a month, I can come back in a month. If you tell me to come back in 6 months, we're going to start reflecting, as you saw before, and negotiating, really, to figure out what's fair and possible. Somebody in a severe crisis coming back in 5 months is, in my opinion, kind of a message, maybe I'm not so interested in treatment, and then I can say, feels like you might not be so interested in treatment. Am I getting that right? And if that's the case, why not? What kind of treatment might you be interested in? So the idea is heavy on top. So in the beginning, we'll go and we'll see an individual. And I think this is true. What I'm hearing during the break is that most of you work in hospitals and are seeing people in the hospitals. That's like my understanding, that a lot of people are doing that. And so the idea is to see the individual in the beginning of that relationship. So you might not do it in their home because you're in the hospital, but to see them in the beginning, as frequently as you can see them, to form that bond and to form that connection. Because once that's solidified, once you have that bond and connection, you can take that along with you, and you don't need to see that individual all that much. Right? And I'll show you towards the end where we're seeing people maybe once a month, once every few months, because they're doing that well, and that's the amount of support they need or they want. The main principle, I think, it looks different in Spanish than it does in English. It's wonderful. So I think the main thing that goes on in a network meeting is that individuals that are sitting around, maybe around a table, maybe around a hospital bed, because we go to hospitals plenty, we ask, what do you want to talk about? Sounds so simple, right? What do you want to talk about? Not you, the individual, the patient, the client, the individual in question. What do you want to talk about? We go around, and everyone gets a voice, and everyone shares what they want to talk about. And after everyone shares what they want to talk about, magic happens. First some arguing, but then magic. We figure out what we're actually going to talk about. We might not be able to cover everything, and we have to figure out where we're going to start. Whose voice is more important in this room? What's more important? Is the medication more a priority? Is the fact that you're upset that your dad had an affair, right? The priority? I mean, there's a lot of things that come up that people will mention. Are you upset about the elections? I mean, that's been coming up a lot in the U.S. That they just want to talk about that. And the delusional thinking that's coming out of all of that. So what do you want to talk about, and how can we prioritize it, and how can we do it in 90 minutes? 90 minutes is the key. Because 90 minutes gives you enough time to really get to know the person, as in, this family. More than 60, because there are a lot of voices, a lot of people in the room. But once you go over 90 minutes, we've noticed, and we were told, right, that it starts to disintegrate. The quality of the conversation changes, and we're no longer in a place where we're able to make an impact with each other and listen to each other in the same way. So 90 minutes is about the amount of time that people can withstand to really listen, argue, and come to a cohesive understanding with one another in that time. So making sure all those voices are heard does take work. You ever have an individual you work with say, I have nothing to say? Nothing. Nope. Whatever they want to talk about, that's okay. So that takes a little bit of work, right? So then what we would do is we would start reflecting with one another, right? Antonio and I would look at each other and say, it sounds like they have nothing to say. I find that hard to believe. After what so-and-so's parents just said about him, I want to say something. And then when they have nothing to say, I say, well, would it be helpful if you heard from our peer specialist? You want to hear about his experience? A what? A who? Right? That tends to be quite helpful. One thing that you might have noticed so far, another very, very important piece is transparency. We are completely transparent to the best of our ability. So what we're thinking is what we're saying. So some of what we're thinking, right, you really can't share, right? That sounds natural. But if you think about it, if you push yourself to really think about what you're thinking, you can say anything to anyone if you reframe it, if you change the language in which you were initially going to say it, and you ask it, you say it in an eloquent, in a thoughtful way, and then you ask it in a question. You're curious, you wonder, you're not sure, right? Not in a statement. You ask it from a place of not knowing. And that's a big part of the treatment model focal features, which is asking it from a place of not knowing. I'm not the expert, Antonio's not the expert, everyone is an expert of themselves. And the family, or the network, is the expert of that network and of that family. And no one is an expert over the next one, even though a lot of people tend to think that they are the expert over the person in crisis. But that's not actually the case. So the thing about our model in terms of treatment is medication. And we're not going to go too much into medication. I just want to give, because I'm not a psychiatrist and I don't want to speak from that perspective, but I just want to tell you a little bit of what we do. And if you're interested in more of that, you can talk to you afterwards about it. The idea is to use less medication, right? Low and slow, that's the motto, low and slow. And so to slowly reduce medication for people over time. In Finland, they're taking people off medication. In New York, we're doing the same, but not for everyone. We find that it helps a lot of people, and that a lot of people don't want to live life without medication, and that they're doing just fine on a very low dosage. And so that's a big piece of it. So some hospitals in the beginning, when we started to work with them, heard about the model and didn't really want to work with us. Oh, those folks who don't want to give their patients, right, or clients, medication. Well, we're not going to refer to them, right? That would be terrible. But actually, people are doing quite well. And what they figured out in Finland is that they can give people anti-anxiety medication to reduce some of that anxiety, get them to talk about what's going on, get them into a network meeting. And I know you're not going to believe me yet because it'll take a few years, but the network meetings, and I'll show you a little bit more about it, have this antipsychotic effect. At the end of that network meeting, the person's actually in a lot calmer state of mind and able to communicate. So sometimes that's why the medication that's needed is less antipsychotic medication, maybe a touch more anti-anxiety medication, just to get them to talk to us and get them to relax just a little bit. So one of the things that I mentioned before, one of the things that happens in traditional family therapy is you treat a family when you're in training. I did that for 4 years. So you're treating a family, and you've got a therapy room like this, like say a room, and a one-way mirror. Behind the one-way mirror, you've got 6 people sitting behind, critiquing. They call you on a little phone, you pick up, you say hello, you say Ruthie. You're spending too much time with the wife, please move over to the husband. You need to ask him what he's feeling. So I've had that happen to me for 4 years. And one of the things that happens in that process, right, is that Tom Anderson decided that what would happen if the people switched places? If the family sat in a room where the consulting team is, and vice versa. and then the family moved into the other. They did this. They switched it up, and they said, okay, we want you to talk transparent. What do you really feel about these people? What do you really feel is going on with this case? But come from a place where you're curious, you're interested, not critical, and ask it in a question. Nothing's definitive. I wonder if mother was really scared in that video when her son started to choke her. Or was she scared for herself? Or was she scared for him? Right? We don't know what happened there. I wonder if the father was trying to protect his wife or protect himself from losing his wife. What was really happening there? So these are the kind of questions that started to happen, right? And what's called the reflecting team. They would just reflect with one another. So when the needs adaptive treatment model and dialogical model happened, they said, we really like this piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift up the glass. We're going to just take it right out. And we're going to do it in front of the family and the network. And we're going to do it where they can hear us. So let's do this with people that have psychosis. That was what was their brilliance, right? The concept is not new. It's a family therapy idea. But the idea of doing it with individuals with psychosis is very new. Because the idea that this kind of speaking not directly to the person, speaking about the person, actually really allows an individual who's psychotic to talk to you. Ever try talking to an individual who's in a psychotic frame of mind, asking them questions? You get no response. It feels like you're not talking to anyone. I mean, that's been my experience. But when you start to talk about the person, ooh, right? Suddenly you're talking about Pat in the video, and suddenly Pat says, wait, that's not what happened, right? What happened was really this. So that's really how that happens. And the other thing to keep in mind, there's two more things to keep in mind. What happened to you, right? This is what I said before. We want to know the narrative. Narrative therapy, which has a prominent place in family therapy, originally comes from Australia and New Zealand. Really ask that question, what happened to this person? How did this person become the person that they are? And in the network meeting, that's what we're doing. We're asking questions from a curious place, from a place that we don't know, from a place that the individual knows him or herself best, but the family knows them best as well, and the friends and the people in that network are in your corner. The other thing which is really important to keep in mind is we hold a trauma-informed care perspective. Keeping in mind that individuals might have gone through past traumas, or that the idea of even going through psychosis is a trauma in and of itself. We're going to move right along. I'm going to try and move this a little quicker. Okay, so that's what happens in a network meeting. I hope this is clear. Are people getting it? Is that we together? So 7 principles of NATM, dialogical open dialogue, right? So 24 hours, right? So in the first 24 hours, you call us, we are in your house. We're there. Fast response. People need help when they're in crisis. Crisis passes, they don't need help. Not for another 6 months. And it's not just true with people with psychosis. I see couples outside of this practice, and I see couples that when they're in crisis with each other, they don't come back too. If you don't see them very quickly. Okay, so the second principle is, right, network meetings. Meeting with the individual served with their family. Okay, really big. We didn't highlight this one, but I think it should be highlighted in some level. Flexibility and mobility. In-home visits. We meet people in coffee shops. Yep. So in New York, there's so many people and everybody ignores one another, so no one's really listening to our conversation. But we meet people in coffee shops, full network meetings. We had a network meeting in a coffee shop in which a family, and I'll tell you more about them later, but a family, originally an Ethiopian family, we were working with. The parents were living in Ethiopia, and they came to visit, and we had one network meeting with them, working with their daughters for 2 years. And in that network meeting, they wanted to change treatment in a drastic way. And that happened at a coffee shop. Wherever is really comfortable for us to meet you. Thank God we have individuals I've been working with for almost 5 years now, and I meet them on their lunch breaks. Right? So they're working actually maybe at a place like this. They have master's degrees. They look regular people of the world. There's just one thing about them. From time to time, they make their voices. But what they can do now is they can recognize when they're about to flare up, and they can come in for a meeting or a session with our team and talk about, hey, is it possible to get this spoken about, and what can I do? Maybe I need medication, maybe I don't, but they kind of check in, learning how to anticipate symptoms for themselves. It's like a real skill set. Responsibility, right? Both to the team, to the network, everybody is equally responsible. We all sit with the same level of responsibility. Wow, this is the biggest one. Psychological continuity. I've been fighting for this one for a long time, right? Continuation of the same therapist. So the therapists that come in the first 24 hours, ideally one of those people that show up, because it's going to be 2 or 3 people that will come out. Psychologist, a therapist of some sort,